In this video, we'll be learning few of the most used image retouching techniques in Photoshop, namely dodge and burn. We'll also look at the sponge tool to make the image more vibrant as we're continuing the Photoshop basics. Welcome to webtrickshome. So, this will be the image we'll be working on. You can find the link in the description to download it. This photo is quite up to the mark, but you can see some areas where you'd like to add a little brightness and some areas where you'd like to add some darkness. But above all, what I would like to do here is add some vibrance to this image as it looks a bit dull. And this is where the dodge, burn and sponge tool comes into play. You can find a number of alternatives to work with dodge and burn in Photoshop, but let's see the basic tools available in the tools bar first. First of all, let's duplicate the background layer so that we could work on this image non-destructively. Then let's select the dodge tool. The dodge, burn and sponge tool are right beneath the blur tool group in the tools bar, which we learned in our previous video. Right click on it and you can see all those tools. You can hit the shortcut key O from your keyboard and hold shift and hit O to toggle between these tools. Let's select the dodge tool and see the available options on the options bar. The first option here is the brush tip, size and hardness, just like you get with other brush tools. Then you have got the brush tip preset option. We already talked about them in detail, right? Then you have got the range option, and that allows you to define where you want to apply the dodge. If you want to apply dodge in darker areas, shadows will be a better choice. You can see here the darker areas are brightened. Let's get it back to normal. You'd select midtones to apply dodge in those areas which are neither much dark nor much bright. Then you have got the highlights, and that will be best for the brighter areas. The intensity would be too much for the midtones and shadow areas. Since this image is a bit dull, midtones and shadows range would best fit here. Then you have got the exposure option, and that defines the intensity of the dodge in each stroke. You have already seen the result at 100% exposure. Let's lower it to around 20% and see the impact. Then you have got the airbrush option that allows you to add airbrush effect on the stroke. If you select the airbrush option and click and hold your mouse at one point, the area of impact increases. Let's get it back to normal. Then you have got the protect tone option. With this option checked, tonal value of the image will be preserved while applying the dodge. And if it is not checked, the hue value of the image will change. And the last option is the pressure sensitivity option for brush size if you are working on a digital tablet. Let's name the layer as dodge so that we can review everything later. This is a destructive way of image retouching, so I'll work on a separate layer with each tools. Let's zoom it a bit and see where we'll need to add brightness. But while zooming in, make sure the entire image in view so that you don't overdo in one particular area and the image looks imbalanced. Since the face, neck and hand are the only areas I'll be working on, this view is okay for me. Let's take off the airbrush and drop the exposure to 10%. We don't have much highlights in this image, so let's set the range to midtones. Look out for the areas where you want to add brightness and apply dodge there. It all depends upon your understanding of the image and the position of the light source. Let's apply the dodge around the neck too. You might need to set the range to shadows if you want it to be more brighter, but I'm simply adding a bit of strokes with the midtone here. Zoom in and zoom out to see the image from close up and as a whole too, and add brightness wherever you feel the need to. So you can see the result here with the dodge tool. This is the before and this is the after. So that's how the dodge tool works. Let's see the burn tool then. And this time I'm not duplicating the background layer but instead the dodge layer so that the burn is applied on top of the dodge. Let's name it burn. Select the burn tool. And you can see all the options on the options bar are same. What this tool does is darkens the pixels wherever it is applied. Basically the highlights are darkened, but here we'll work on the midtones. Let's set the exposure to around 20%. That's too much. Let's reduce it to 6. Well, that looks good. Let's add some depth to the shadows. Well, that's the before and that's the after. Let's look at the whole picture. This one's the before and this one's after the DOS and bar. The image already looks more vibrant now. Let's make it more vibrant with the sponge tool then. Let's duplicate the latest copy of the layer and name it as sponge. Select the sponge tool. You can see similar options on the options bar. Here you've got the blending mode, saturate and desaturate that we have already learned about. Then you've got the vibrance option to minimize removal of fully saturated or desaturated colors. Let's see the desaturate mode first. This will reduce the color intensity from the image. Paint over the image. And you can see the image turned into grayscale version. Let's get it back to normal. Select saturate. Let's reduce the flow to, let's say, 50%. Paint over the document. And you can see the image becomes more vibrant. Let's have a closer look. Here it looks more radius. Let's desaturate it a bit. That's too much. Let's reduce the flow a bit. Well, that looks alright. So this is the before and this is the after with DOS, burn and sponge applied. Let's group all these layers, lock them and hide. Now we're going to see another alternative for DOS and burn that's non-destructive too. All you need to do is add a curves adjustment layer to the image. Increase the brightness to the point where the image obtains maximum brightness that you want to apply. Let's name it DOS. Add another adjustment layer. And this time reduce the darkness to the point where the image gets maximum darkness that you want to apply over it. Let's name it burn. Invert both adjustment layers with controller command I. Let's select the DOS layer. Then all you need to do is select the brush tool with the white color set as foreground color. Drop the flow value to minimal. I'll set it to 2. And simply paint over the areas where you want to add brightness. Now select the burn layer and paint over the area where you want to add darkness. Let's group both of these adjustment layers. And you can see this is the before and this is the after. Now you can add a vibrance adjustment layer and play with the vibrance and saturation to make the image more vibrant. Or simply select the layers and hit Alt Ctrl Shift E or Option Command Shift E to add a new layer that is the output of all the selected layers merged into a single layer. Then play with the sponge tool to add vibrance as we did previously. Well, that's the before and that's the after. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching and please subscribe our channel for more videos. Thank you.